Before I begin, I would like to take a moment and thank my colleagues who are here with me, the few of the proud in here in the sanctuary, because today our sanctuary decided that it would be without heat. So we particularly owe a debt of gratitude to those who are with us today. And I will say that for religious professionals, these times just give us a new challenge every day. Now, not only do we have to worry about our masks and unmasking and unmasking without ripping the microphone off, but I do, for the first chance, have the opportunity to wear color-coordinated gloves to worship. So I'm grateful for that, but I'm going to take them off now, but just wanted to say. So, gratitude, especially to Tristan Thielman, who's been running around with heaters to keep us warm. We came, we saw, we ate, we trembled. In 2008, Skinner House published the first book I co-authored, the name of which was borrowed from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who we'll celebrate over this week. "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice," was the quote. And though writing that book over was a 5-year heartache, when it was released, I still believed that that was the right title for it. After all, wasn't King's quote from our Unitarian, an adaptation from our Unitarian ancestor Theodore Parker? And wasn't that promise in the same vein as the thinking of our faith that once caused one of our Unitarian ancestors to declare that ours was a world which would see progress onward and upward forever? That is so much who we are as a people. I once saw a child who was learning just to write numbers and was getting to the part after 10 and very carefully wrote 2 lines next to each other and then said, "See, this 1 counts double." Those of us who have lived through these last years, this last half decade, truthfully, are in that category too. We're people that understand what it's like to go through years that count at least double. We have borne much, learned much, and seen so much. And these years, and these last weeks, all the frustrations of having plans undone yet again and again and again, this time of what the Othering and Belonging program at UCal Berkeley calls anti-democracy cascade, which includes constructing voting districts to benefit incumbents and make sure no one else will be elected. This year, when a political satire called "Don't Look Up" felt to many as if it were a documentary. This year, as I speak once again into a sanctuary devoid of people except for a small handful of my precious and rather chilly colleagues. This year, on a week when 1 year ago and 3 days ago, after a heinous attack on our sense of the loving predictability of the world and our democracy, we gather. But we gather. Keep that in mind. We gather in times that would have been unimaginable just a decade ago, having holidays without our beloveds, experiencing wrenching divisions in our families, losing loved one after loved one, seeing images of polar bears trapped on ever smaller chunks of ice, winter fires in Colorado, hurricanes, and in contrast, every excess of what Naomi Klein calls disaster capitalism. The disbelief we have lived with makes some of us just deny it, just pretend it doesn't exist, and just go about our business in defiance, though that may be deadly for some. And for many more of us, it leads to inaction, a sense of that powerlessness that is the first step onto the threshold of depression. In late 2016, the Academy of American Poets decided to publish Jane Hirschfeld's 2014 poem, which Rodney read earlier in our service, on Inauguration Day, in 2017. Some of you will remember that day. They wanted to publish it because it spoke of all that trembling of our previous unshakable beliefs, all the roots of the heaviness and difficulty of the years before that traced back in time and also, as we now know is true, would go forward as well. Complacency and a sense of certainty that even if we did nothing, we would inhabit a better and freer and more just world made us all perhaps not take the actions we wished we had taken in those early years of that decade. And yet Hirschfeld is talking about the poem in a very clear way, that in these times, regret is much less important than resolve. Many of us still believe that we can bend that arc. And I think many of us also now understand with greater certainty that its curvature is not guaranteed unless we are active participants. It depends on us, that bending, and our willingness to realize that we have had the incredible blessing of resilience and survival in these last years. So we have already demonstrated how we turn that resilience into resolution. I want to say that again. We already know that we can turn that resilience into resolution. What are the small acts that we can commit to do one day at a time to help add our weight to the bending of that arc? It might be just buying local, buying less and donating more, skipping one round of computer solitaire for a phone call to a friend, or sending a card to someone we actually know we can't have a civil conversation with right now, but someone we want to let know that we still love them. Taking one action from the Side of Love page at the Unitarian Universalist Association, or participating in our next virtual hour of action, which will be a week from now, next Sunday, led by Reverend Rodney. We could do that instead of just sitting and watching one more alarming analysis of things we already know are bad enough. We could spend some of our risk dollars to join in our MLK witness next week. We could listen to the fears of a teenager about this world rather than reassuring them that, of course, it's going to be okay, because our answers are in that, of course. When we do act, see, taste, we can see the beauty and reasons for gratitude all around. And this time, as we watch the world go a little more virtual once again, we have things we didn't have last time. We have vaccinations, and we have boosters, and we have the skills that we learned to keep us alive in those years just past. We know how to use the tools of virtual connection. We have an incredible array of knowledge about how important we are to one another, and not just during COVID surges. And though what happened to Ahmaud Arbery is unspeakable and should never have happened, it was aired and confronted, not just shoved under the table behind closed doors. Laws were changed and the perpetrators were convicted this week. We have trembled with fear this year, with right action, and we can tremble with joyful purpose.
In a recent interview published in Psychology Today, poet Jane Hirschfeld was asked a poignant and powerful question. And that question was, is there hope in your poem? She answers this question by stating that the poem's hope lives in the phrase, let them, those in the future, not say. She explains that she wanted the phrase, let them, to sit in that sweet space between a command and a powerful prayer. Let them not say it was not spoken, not written. Let them not say they did nothing. How often in life have we wished that we had said something, done something? Maybe our lack of self-worth kept us from expressing a deep need. Perhaps our desire to keep the status quo resulted in us not interrupting microaggressions that we witnessed. Maybe our fear of rejection prohibited us from reminding someone how much we loved them. Or maybe it was our sense of pride that kept us from expressing the three very hard words in the English language: I am sorry. Hirschfield explains that the command, "let them," reminds us that the future is malleable. They have not said anything yet because that time has not come. There is still time for us to speak and do, to change, to grow, to be better. The final few lines of her poem speak of the kerosene beauty by which people warm themselves, read, and engage in praise. Normally, I see fire as a destructive force, something that burns away, making room for something new. However, I hear her words differently. Somehow, Hirschfield focuses my attention away from the flames of destruction itself and reminds me that there is beauty to behold in the light, especially within the relationships of those that are around the resulting fire. I find an odd comfort here that reminds me that even if I feel frozen to say or do something, perhaps my chosen community can do it with me or for me. I myself only need to find the smallest of things to do or to say. Maybe, just maybe, my small action or word can ignite a hope or an inspiration in those who have gathered around our fledgling flyer. A hope for reimagined policing or health care for everyone, or perhaps adequate food and housing for all. Even by focusing on small and very manageable acts or words, the initial flames of our action could result in us seeing our own kerosene beauty. Here are some of the ways all of us have shared today in our YouTube channel, those tiny or large or small or everything in between ways to initiate the flames of commitment and action. It's these words that are, today at least, our collective kerosene beauty. I hope to bring more laughter and joy into my life and those around me. I hope to continue optimism. I will continue to read and discuss Caste and other books despite the difficult chapters they may contain. I hope to enjoy and join the Sunday services virtually at MDUUC. I'm going to speak up when there is something that needs to be said. I'm going to bring a more joyful presence in my life and support widening the circle of concern and its implementation. I'm going to continue supporting my 15-year-old grandniece as she lives with COVID anxiety. I'm going to increase my offering of healing in several different settings.
I did a lot of, thank you, Reverend Rodney. It's wonderful. And thank you to all of you who brought your voices into the service. It's wonderful to have that as part of our service today. I did a lot of cleaning over the holidays because I couldn't do some of the things I had planned to do. And one of the things that surfaced was this little book. I don't know where I got it. It must have been one of my dear retired colleagues who often pass on their wisdom. It was a little book of translation of the words of the Desert Fathers by Henry Nouwen and also Yushi Nomura. And this is one of the little fragments of wisdom in that very beautiful little book. A brother asked an old man, "What shall I do For many thoughts are bothering me, and I don't know how to fight them back. And the old man said, do not fight against all of them, but just against one. In fact, all thoughts have a single head, and therefore you have to figure out which and what kind it is, and then fight against it. By doing so, you can defeat the rest of those thoughts. So those desert ones, the Abbas and the Ammas who went to live in the desert, did so at a time of great cultural upheaval, as the Roman Empire had fallen and Christianity was being converted into a state religion which stripped much of what had been its power for its most devoted and early converts. We spoke, we witnessed, we did not enough. We living in this era of change may feel that as well. That despite our speaking and our witnessing, we somehow ended up in the not enough category. And again, what is useful to us is not regret, but resolve. We living in this era of change may feel an overwhelming onslaught of things which feel as if they need our attention every moment. And especially in these isolated times, we may feel paralyzed and unable to act on all of them. And yet, perhaps among them, through our discernment, we can find out that one head, that one step, that one action, and take that start in this new year. When last our sanctuary was this empty, we needed to be comforted, and we still do, and we should offer one another ways to get over this mountain together. And this is a both and, not an either or, I know for myself that we also need to feel as if we are still agents of change in our lives and in the world, to overcome that sense of powerlessness and despairing helplessness. And just as when Christianity was changing the world in the 1800s, the century over which slavery came to an end, the century over which it came to an end, those who fought for abolition would find a way only to have that way closed in front of them, and then find another way only to have that way closed in front of them. And even after the slaves were freed, and even after the next decade's struggle around whether or not they would count as citizens, with many, again, ends and dead ends and new needs for new paths, they then had to wrestle with all the ways that those new citizens found their basic rights, including the right to vote, restricted, which might sound familiar. What is before us might be more of a ramble than a path, and yet it is there. In the world racked by disbelief and disillusionment, we can warm ourselves by that fire of faith. Those who believe in a great external order, those who believe there's this great controlling God in the sky that is managing all of this in these times, have to be completely in despair. They have to find ways to strike out in rage and betrayal. And yet we who have always known that at best we are essential to the equation in partnership with such a God, might want to spend less of this particular time of less external activities, learning and growing and doing what we can. We can support the ACLU or the League of Women Voters or the People's Campaign, which is led both by William Barber, the Black leader, and Liz Theoharis, a white woman who has known the extremes of poverty. We can vow to talk to a friend in another state about the importance of their local races or their Secretary of State race this year. We can pass up one delivered meal and give a special gift to the Trinity Center, which is serving a record number of people every day now because of the rise in those unhoused. We can order less on Amazon and reduce our carbon footprint and help our local merchants. We can listen to the voices of Indigenous leaders who have been crying out against the despoilment of our environment for centuries now. Jane Hirschfeld writes, "It's my nature to question, to look at the opposite side. I believe that at our best we do this. We look where there is sorrow, and there will be joy. And where there is joy, there will be sorrow. The acknowledgement of the fully complex scope of being is why good art thrills. Acknowledging the fullness of things is our human task. We do not know yet how it will turn out, and I do not want them to say, we did not enough. Together, we can make this time when we know that our sheltering walls are thin, when we boost those walls together, we buoy them up. We can make this a time like the desert fathers journeyed, a time for recommitting to the core of our faith, for moving from resilience to resolve. And as we do these things, we will work towards a future joy where we all see each other a little more clearly and with such deep gratitude and celebration. When we will hear the sounds of one another's voices, when we will break bread together once again. For we are living in that crack that is in everything, as the singer Leonard Cohen says. And now we have to be the bearers of the little shards of light that can start coming through that crack. We are the ones who will help each other get over that mountain. May we make it so in this 2022.